Greetings from Father Isidore Clarke. Today I'm going to reflect on the Gospel for the third Sunday of Lent. This is about Jesus and the Samaritan woman. How did people react to Jesus? How do we respond to him? That's the most important question for any of us, and it's a central theme in St. John's Gospel. There we are told about different people responding to Jesus in a variety of ways, much as they do today. Some, like Nicodemus, are genuinely interested in Jesus. They want to know more about him, but are not yet ready to make a commitment to him. Others are like Nathanael and Thomas. They make the journey from profound skepticism to a deep belief in Jesus. Many others admire his teaching, while not being prepared to follow him. Finally, there are those who become hostile to Jesus and set out to destroy him and his followers. Today's Gospel tells us about the way Jesus and the Samaritan woman react to each other. The setting is important. It's the noonday heat of the Middle East. Naturally, a traveller like Jesus would have been hot and thirsty, so he relaxed by a well. That was frustrating for him. He needed a drink, but had no means of drawing water from the well. The women of the nearby village would have come much earlier, or perhaps later, when it would have been cooler. But there's an exception, the Samaritan woman. Surprisingly, she comes to draw water at the heat of the day, perhaps to avoid the other women who mocked her about her complicated love life. She'd had 5 husbands and was currently living with another man. But Jesus meets her where she is, in her daily life, its routine, together with its complications. From there he leads her and us to where we should be, where deep down we really want to be. The power of this incident was brought home to me when my brother Peter and I visited the Holy Land. There I was struck by the contrast between the Judean desert and, on its edge, the ancient city of Jericho. While in the desert hardly anything grew, Jericho was a fertile city in which people had lived for centuries and in which tropical fruits grew. The presence or absence of water made the difference between life and death. Coming from a well-watered, fertile land, that was something I hadn't really appreciated. Here in England, we complain about the rain, while in an arid land, it's seen as a blessing from God. Today's Gospel incident begins with Christ's need for water. Tired and thirsty from walking in the noonday heat, he was glad to rest at Jacob's well in Samaritan territory. But to his frustration, he had no bucket with which to draw water from the well. But what a relief for him when a woman came to draw water in the heat of the day. As the woman meets Jesus, they have a fascinating conversation. Being a Samaritan, whom the Jews traditionally despised as semi-pagan, she was surprised that Jesus, a Jew, should have spoken to her at all. But he used his need for her to draw him some water as an opening for their conversation. As she satisfies that need, he told her that she needed the inexhaustible living water which he promised to give her. She naturally understood this very literally, and thinking that she would never have to draw water from the well again, eagerly asked for this water. but they were talking at cross purposes. Jesus was not offering her the kind of water that satisfies our physical thirst. Here, water represents God's gift of himself through his life-giving Spirit. As their conversation progressed, we see the Samaritan woman's faith in Jesus develop. First, she addresses him respectfully as Sir. She then recognizes him as a prophet, and finally thinks he could be the Messiah. She warmed to Jesus, who spoke to her respectfully. When Jews normally would only have had contempt for a Samaritan, especially one who would have been dismissed as a sinner. Eagerly she rushed to share her faith in Jesus with her neighbors. When they saw him, they too believed in him. These Samaritans were the first fruits in the Lord's harvest. Today's Gospel reminds us of what Jesus had told Nicodemus. We must be born from above, from water and the Holy Spirit, if we are to share God's life as his children. To the Samaritan and us, Jesus exclaims, "If only you appreciated the gift of God." We can so easily take for granted the divine life we receive through baptism, just as we take for granted the rain which makes ours a fertile land.